Hi guys, this is my fourth violin tutorial video, and in this video we are going to finally be covering the violin itself. So in this video I just wanted to go over the components of the violin and the basics. Yeah, and I think it's really important because you could be going to your teacher or your tutor or whatever, and you might not know all these components, but your teacher might ask you a question like, who knows, um, use your fine tuners, or your A string is a little bit out of tune. Could you please use your fine tuners to move it up? And you might not know what that is, so I'm going to go through all the components of the violin really quick with you guys here. So yeah, let's dive in. So as you can see, we'll work our way from the bottom of the violin. So that right there, that's the that's the end pin, and then we have the chin rest right here. This is a very important piece, and then of course your chin goes here, and ideally you don't want to be too much facing like this or like this. You just want to comfortably rest your chin, not too much that way or not too much that way. So that's important because that's where your chin is going to be. And then we have the tail piece here. It's important to know that these two pieces are interchangeable, so you can take these off and customize them how you want. So here's now an important piece of the violin, the fine tuners here. Now you can see my violin doesn't have 3 of these fine tuners. It only has the E string. Now this is because when you get a lot more advanced and you finally get a full-size violin, you're no longer going to need these because it's just considered not necessary, I guess. Because they keep the E string because out of all these strings, the E string is the most fragile and it's the hardest to tune with your pegs. We'll get into that. So yeah, that's pretty much why the E string only has a fine tuner. But if you have a smaller violin, like 3/4 or a half size or whatever, then you are gonna have this full set, so you can tune your strings. So now moving on, as you can see, we have our F holes here. These F holes are where the sound comes out, and inside of the violin you have a sound post which vibrates, which gives that sound. And then we have our bridge here. This bridge is responsible for holding the strings, and you have to be careful because it can collapse. It's really fragile. So, and then now we'll go over the strings. We have the G string, we have the D string, we have the A string, and we have the E string. So that makes up the 4 strings of the violin. Of course, viola is different, and you can have a violin with more than 4 strings, uncommon, but you can. And yeah, the E string can be gold or silver. It really depends on where you get them from. So moving on, here's the fingerboard. This is where you're going to be playing all of your notes. You're going to be putting your fingers here like that. So yep, that's the fingerboard. And then now we come higher up here. There, right there. This ridge here is called the nut. That's where the strings lie right there. They go across there. And then moving up, we have the 4 pegs, and we have the scroll. Now, these 4 pegs are like the fine tuners, but the differences that they make is a lot more drastic compared to the fine tuners. Like if you were to turn the fine tuners, it's like in the name, it's very fine. You're not going to be changing the sound that much. Opposed to the pegs, when you move it a little bit, it's going to be changing a lot. And usually for beginners, I wouldn't touch the pegs. I would stick to your fine tuners. If you really need to use the pegs for big differences, I would ask your teacher or whoever's supervising you to go for the pegs. So until you learn how to use the pegs properly, because it can be hard, because if you go too much, you could snap the string, so you have to be careful. So I would stick to the fine tuners. And then, yep, pretty much that's it. And then we have the scroll. As you can see, each string is coiled up to each peg. And, I think that about covers it for the parts and components of the violin. It's pretty easy to understand. The only hard things I would say is learning how to use the tuners, and other than that, you're pretty much good. So, yep, that was my fourth episode, and yep, I hope you guys have a great day.